This is Laura Barrera with Your Main Concern, and you're listening to the Opportunity Project. This is a forum where I talk with some of the most wonderful women I know to share their stories of inspiration and how they've overcome their own personal obstacles and turned them into opportunities. My guest today is Tyler King, who I got to know and love before I retired from IBM. Tyler is a design lead specializing in design research and strategy for enterprise hardware, specifically mainframes. Her job is to lead her team through enterprise design thinking, which is a framework used to help technologists gain empathy for their product users so they can build solutions to better meet their needs. In addition to product work, Tyler leads the IBM Poughkeepsie Design Studio, where she focuses on new designer education and skills development. Hi, Tyler.
Hi, Laura.
So good to see you.
I miss you.
Oh, I miss you too. We had some fun times together. Yeah.
I was going to say the office isn't the same without you, but there is no office.
There's no office. The office isn't the same, period, right?
Yeah.
So Tyler, I know that you graduated college with a marketing degree. So how in the world did you end up as a design lead in a technology company?
It's all everything's an accident. So I am in a sorority and I'm the sweetheart of a fraternity. So I had a lot of like Greek life connections through just Greek alumni when I was in college. And so when I was applying for jobs, I applied to a bunch of marketing positions and I applied to a job at IBM because people were like, IBM's a company, go apply there. And I actually knew an alum of the fraternity that I'm the sweetheart of. And he worked at IBM and I was like, hey, be my employee reference. And he was like, you have a portfolio, kind of. You should just apply to this design position that I have and just apply. And so I was like, all right, let's see what happens. And now he's my manager, but it's a nice, happy success story of like being social and networking. But I didn't really know that like design was a job that existed or a job that I could have, especially not like design research, which is what I do. And so I've like learned most of what I do for my job on the job. But I'm pretty much doing exactly what I've always wanted to do. I just didn't know it existed, it's cool. It's very happy.
That is so cool. And I've always admired, ever since I learned that story, I've admired that you stepped out into something that you weren't necessarily prepared for, but you saw the potential there and you did it anyway. So we could say that design research wasn't exactly a mainstream type of career route for you. So tell me a little bit about the attitude or mindset that it took to enable you to say yes to an opportunity like that.
Really, I was just in like the mindset of being a senior in college and being like, all right, I want a job. I don't really know what I want to do, but I'm going to say yes to whatever comes my way. Worst case, I don't like it and I do it for a couple of years and then I move on to a new job. Thankfully, I lucked out and I ended up somewhere that I really love, doing something that I really, really enjoy. But that mindset of just say yes and see how it goes and roll with it has been my mindset ever since I got to IBM as well. So I've just been saying yes to things. And, when I was a new designer, my plate wasn't super, super full. So I had a lot of flexibility to basically say yes to all these different side projects, which were super cool. And I would just say, okay, I'll do it and I'll figure it out. But it ended up growing my skill set and it grew my network and it's opened up a lot of doors for me. And it's been that network that I've grown from just saying yes to random things that has really helped me develop my career. So it might be a good mindset to have. So far it's going all right, knock on wood.
Yeah, and again, I mean, and it's not that easy for everybody. I think your personality lends itself to that type of adventure, should we say?
I
But
like that word.
I think, you have this really great perspective of let's see where we go. I can go forward, and I always have the option to course correct if something's just not right. So, and along the way, you found some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. I'm very thankful. It's been fun.
Yeah. So not long ago, you published an article that was featured in the Medium on the IBM design page. And it was subtitled Seven Simple Ways for Men or Anyone to Empower Young Women in the Workforce. So, what exactly prompted that article?
I worked with some amazing guys at IBM, and obviously I wanted to pay homage to them, do a little literary ode to them, and give them a nice shout out in some way because they're awesome. But as you would imagine, I work in tech, so I work with a lot of dudes. It's a male dominated field. But I actually didn't realize that I hadn't worked on a team with another woman until I was about 2 years into my job. And I was like working one day and I was like, wow, I've never been on the same team as another lady.
Wow.
And, the guys that I work with never made me feel other. They never made me feel like the only woman on the team. So that was great. That was like a surprising realization. I was like, oh, okay. But I think it's because the the colleagues that I work with, the male colleagues that I work with, have really taken purposeful steps to empower me and empower the other women that they work with. So I figured I'd write an article so that other guys in tech or other guys just wherever in the professional world could see how easy it is to empower the women they work with and try to imitate the guys that I work with. So quick anecdote, I guess, is that the first team I worked on was me, and then two men who had a collective 30 years between them. So they each had worked at IBM for like 15 years, and it would have been super easy for me to feel intimidated. It would have been really easy for them to like ignore me and use their power and just steamroll over me. But instead, they put together a meeting for all of us to get together for our first time working as a team. And I was still like a fresh baby designer. And instead of just being like, okay, Tyler, this is what we're doing, go, 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 like, good luck, they took the time to explain things to me. And then they looked at me and they said, okay, Tyler, what do we do next? And I think it was this automatic trust in my expertise, which was this trust that I didn't even have in myself, that really set the tone for how I came to expect to be treated by my teammates. So now whenever I'm on a team, I expect people to trust me. And if they don't, there is something wrong and I speak up. Some other quick things that my male colleagues have done, which really requires very little effort on their part, but it's been really impactful. So it's good and it's easy for other men to emulate. They tell their colleagues about me. So when I do a good job, when I'm working with them, they endorse my skills. It's like the easiest way to help somebody else, just by saying something nice about them to somebody else. It's better than it's me going and being like, hey, Laura likes me. It's better if Laura says, hey, Tyler's a good kid. She knows what she's doing. They create opportunities for me kind of in this way, but they also just like take the time to actually create opportunities. Maybe if I'm like, even if I'm kind of freaked out by the opportunity they're creating. So I was actually able to work on my favorite project ever, which is the IBM Z15 Instant Recovery project. It's my favorite project of all time, and I'm on it literally because a male colleague created the space for me on the team. He was like, we need a designer. It's going to be Tyler. Tyler, you're on this. Good luck. Let's go. And that was a great opportunity. I love it. And then another thing that the men that I work with do is they really take the time to echo my sentiments and assign credit to me, especially during meetings. They do it out loud. They say it with their words. Or if I'm interrupted during a meeting or I want to speak and they can see that I'm having trouble getting a word in, they create that space and they give me kind of like the metaphorical microphone in a meeting. So they'll literally say, "Hey, Tyler, what were you saying?" Or, "Hey, Tyler has something to say." Super easy. They just have to say a couple of words, like 6 words, but bam, they say that and I'm able to be heard. Literally just 6 words is all it takes. And so one of the key things here is elevating my voice, and it's able to make me be heard, and contribute to meetings and contribute in the professional environment in a really real way. And because once my voice is heard, y'all will hopefully like what I say. I just need someone to hand over the microphone for me.
Hmm. Yeah, it's not so easy to ask for it. And when you have some advocates in the room with you and people who are building you up, it certainly helps to, foster that feeling of appreciation and having your voice heard, so you have a seat at the table. That's wonderful. And I would go so far, Tyler, as to say it doesn't end with the wonderful men you work with. Tell me a little bit about how your female colleagues have contributed to your success.
I'm all about girl power. I have some wonderful female mentors. I have the best mentors in all the land. I have the best female coworkers in all the land. So while I think that my male coworkers have empowered me by kind of handing over the spotlight, the women that I work with have really helped me kind of navigate corporate America from a female perspective and have taught me how to take the spotlight for myself when I need it. And I'm really I'm very keen, or I don't know, I'm want to either overreact or underreact when I perceive some sort of injustice, especially like injustice against me. So one of my very fabulous mentors, she always helps me kind of evaluate which battles I am gonna pick. So anecdote, I was working with 2 male colleagues. I love them to death, so it's a happy story, I promise. But I was working with them, and they kind of like talked down to me, and they essentially undermined my authority in a meeting, which no, mm-mm. And I, I really wanted to underreact because I was like, they didn't mean it the way they thought, like the way I took it, and like, no, like it's fine. And my mentor took me aside and she said, "Do you want those guys to do that again? Like, do you want them to undermine you in another meeting?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Okay, well, now you know what to do. You have to say something because you don't want them to do that again. And they're not going to know that it's not okay for them to do that." So I used that as a nudge, and kind of like the permission that I needed to go and confront some more senior male colleagues of mine. And we ended up having a really great discussion. And they admitted to me they didn't even realize that they had done anything wrong, and they thanked me for bringing it to their attention. But we had a discussion about how, as a young lady in corporate America, I need their help. I need them to empower me. And they immediately apologized, and like I felt 1,000 times better because I was no longer harboring any ill will. I wasn't letting these feelings fester. I wasn't like, "Oh, these guys are the worst," and like let them like build up like their malice in my brain. I felt so much better, and like they probably felt better. And now they've become some of my biggest cheerleaders, and they've created all these amazing opportunities for me to travel and to speak, and to work with clients. And so it's all because my wonderful mentor queen told me, "Hey, you're allowed to stick up for yourself. You have that permission. Please do it."
I love that. That's great. And, you said, they hadn't really had the awareness of what was happening as a result of their behavior, but so much of it does come down to awareness. And I think if we can start as the humans that we are and then the professionals that we become, to realize that we have to understand ourselves, we want to understand others, and just, I love that you opened a dialogue with them and it really worked out to everyone's benefit.
Yeah, I'm glad that was a happy story. And I'm not telling you like, "Oh, these guys were the worst and now I hate them." I love them so much. They're the best.
Yeah, and the workplace is now all the better for anyone coming behind you too. And again, not just the females, right? It's really just about teaming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
it's great. Unfortunately, we can't all be as lucky as you've been. So, what advice, Tyler, would you give to young women who may not feel as supported as you do in the workplace?
So I know that, yeah, I acknowledge that not everybody is blessed to have like the most magical male colleagues in the world. But one thing I would say for other young ladies or just young people or human people, any humans actually in the workforce, is to ask for what you want and ask for what you need. Um, like, do you need somebody to back you up in a meeting? Tell them, say, hey, whoever person, I need you to create a space for me to talk in this meeting if people start talking over me or if I can't get a word in edgewise. And like 9 times out of 10, someone's going to say, okay, perfect. Yeah. What can I do? Was someone condescending to you in a meeting? Pull them aside and tell them, hey, I need you to empower me more in the future. Uh, you can even phrase it like they're doing you a favor, because people love feeling like they're helping people. It's always uncomfortable to ask for what you need. It's like a weird vulnerability thing. I don't like asking for help. I don't like asking for what I need. And like it just puts you in this weird vulnerable position. But I promise you, if you're working with halfway decent people, just asking for something that you need is going to get you so far, and it'll probably get you what you need. And if it ends up like hurting your career for some reason, or impacting you in some negative way, then you're probably working in a really toxic environment, and you probably need to make an exit plan. You shouldn't be trapped somewhere that treats you like a second class employee.
Mm. Yeah, great advice, Tyler. And I think sometimes we can probably all relate to being in a circumstance, whether at work or somewhere else, where we really just weren't sure how to proceed. Some of the best advice that I've been given from my mentors is to not run from something, but run to something. In other words, if there's a chance that the problem is partially lying within you or me, it's going to come with us wherever we go. So yes, I agree. There are times and places for that exit plan. It's always good though to do some work on yourself
Oh
to
yeah.
grow into the person ready for that move. So when you get to wherever it is you're going to go, that it's definitely going to be a better experience for you.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Introspection is very, very important, because then like who you are, what you bring to the table, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, how people perceive you. But then you also know like what you want and like where you'll thrive. So it's a really valuable exercise. One exercise that I was asked to do when I started at IBM by one of the team coaches at Design Boot Camp. So way back in the day, we all on the team had to do this superpowers and kryptonite exercise. And so one person had to leave the room, and everybody on the team would write down their superpowers, what they were great at, and their kryptonites, what they were not great at. And it was all anonymous, and we put them up on the wall, and the person had to come in and read their superpowers and kryptonite, and they had the opportunity to address them with the team. And then, we'd go person by person, and like everybody would get them. And I still have mine somewhere in a box because it was such a powerful exercise. And now I know how, like, I knew how my team perceived me and like how I was coming off. And it was like a crazy exercise in like self-awareness. And I was like, whoa. But now I make teams do that all the time, and I love it.
That's so wonderful. I love that idea. All right. So as designers, when we study users, we talk about feelings and pain points and motivations. And, from experience, we know that can be uncomfortable for some people to do, especially when they're the kinds of people who are focused on like the detailed work of engineering. So How do you position like this approach so it can be more comfortable for more people?
I I mean, I get it. I don't like talking about feelings either. I'm pretty over like talking about feelings during design thinking workshops unless I have to, but I've been focusing primarily on like process changes. But if you shift the mindset away from ew, I'm talking about feelings, and you think more along the lines of, hey, I'm gathering qualitative and quantitative data about human behavioral patterns. Maybe that'll help. It's helped for me feel less gross about talking about feels. But if you look at the results of data driven decision making and design driven decision making, the numbers, they don't lie. So companies that are design driven outperform their competitors by something like 228%. A Forrester report showed a 75% reduction in time required to gather and align on initial requirements. They showed like a 50% faster time to market, and then upwards of millions of dollars in development and test savings per project when design practices were applied, and upwards of millions of dollars of savings, no, millions of dollars of profit, sorry, increased. So
Wow.
design design decisions lead to some good juicy numbers. um, and then personally, my team has leveraged human-centered design techniques for IBM Z15 instant recovery, which I talked about as my favorite project ever. And just the anecdotes that our customers uh, tell me about their experience using the offering are enough to tell me that we're doing the right thing. I'm not allowed to share any direct quotes because it's all proprietary pending legal stuff. But I will say, I will take it away from the context. I won't tell you what client it was, but I did get an email from a user saying that the experience was magical. And I was like, oh my God, this person gets me. He speaks my language. But it made me feel really, really good about the work that we were doing. And if a client cared enough to send me an email telling me that the thing we gave him was magical, just shows that the tactics we're using through design thinking and design driven decision making really work.
Yeah, you're doing something right there then. Yeah. And
Heartwarming.
you know, the statistics speak pretty loudly. And you've done some of the personality assessment with me, and there are personalities that are very detail oriented and they look for precision. And in the field that you and I used to work in, so there are a lot of people like that, and those things matter in being able to prove that something is really worth your time.
Mhm.
So I appreciate that you brought all that great information to the table here too.
Yeah, sometimes it's a combination of like the tangible numbers and the intangible human emotions, the visceral reactions to what we're making that really make the best decisions.
So tell us about a unique opportunity that you've had because of your open-minded attitude.
Mm. So I've had some very cool opportunities because IBM rocks. So I've been really really lucky. Um, and like I said, a lot of the opportunities I've been afforded have come from me just saying yes to random things and then making friends along the way and asking for what I need. So I think my I have a lot of I have a lot of favorite things. But I think my like favorite thing of 2019 was being able to travel pretty much every month. It was so cool. I loved it. And now I'm like realizing how much I loved it now that I can't go anywhere. um, but my travel opportunities, I had one client visit last year that was really cool. I got to go on site and work with a client for 2.5 days, I think, and I got to see where they work and how they work and do usability testing with them for a new product. And so one of my users the one that we visited is in Denmark. And I've been working with that user for a little over 2 years now. And like literally the only reason we have a close working relationship, the only reason that I know him is because one of the men in one of the stories that I told pretty much dragged me to an impromptu user research session at a conference that we were attending 2.5 years ago. But I remember he was like, okay, Tyler, you have an interview with a client in 2 hours. Be there. Good luck. I was like, I literally just started learning about this domain that we're researching. I don't really have any questions. So I came to the meeting with 4 questions and a piece of paper, like printer paper, with no clue how this conversation was going to take an hour. But the user ended up teaching me about mainframe capacity planning of all things using coffee cups. He just like whipped out a bunch of coffee cups and was like, this is how capacity works. Let's go.
Oh,
And ever since that meeting, he and I have been working on projects together for ever since 2 years. So when I needed to do usability testing for this new product I was working on, I knew all I had to do was ask this client, hey, can I come visit you and like do testing with you? And because we had built such a strong relationship over the years, and really strong partnership even, I was able to travel to Denmark and spend 3 days on site with him. And he introduced us to like at least 10 other users. So we did research with more users than we had ever hoped to do research with, in just a 3-day period. And it was probably one of the most valuable experiences I've ever had in my career. There's nothing like being on site with a client. And I also, like, bonus, I got to go to Denmark around Christmas time. So it was just like this magical winter wonderland. It was so great. Um,
that is
but I
great.
got to, yeah, but I got to have this wonderful, magical opportunity all because I was introduced to this really awesome client by someone who took a chance on me and trusted me to step up and deliver. And I think that's pretty cool.
It's so cool. And there are so many lessons in that story alone. It's hard to get them all, but you know, that that leader who introduced you to that opportunity knows how to lead, because you do the best leaders bring people with them. And well, he kind of threw you into the situation, but he had your back, I'm sure, and had great confidence in you. And why wouldn't he? Because you are Tyler, and you are great. So
Oh, thank you. You're
yeah.
pretty cool.
How many patents do you have?
I have one that has officially been like issued in the frame, and then I have one that's been like filed by like one more that's been filed by IBM. So that means it'll like get done in a year or two. So I
Right.
got one real one.
Okay. So, and you got that one, you filed that how early in your career?
During my first year, I think. It was from my project that we did at Design Boot Camp during like the first, I think it was the first boot camp project, the second.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm. It's
That's
cool. And we partnered with a very fabulous now master inventor. He wasn't a master inventor before, but I met with him a bunch and I was like, tell me how to write a patent. And he was like, okay, this is what you do, but I'm not going to write it for you. And I did it. So I was like the lead on the patent, and then I dragged some other people along with me, and now we have it. I feel like all the other cool engineers in IBM, because I see them on their walls all the time. So
yeah.
now I'm like, I have one. See,
Yeah. And it's just the first of many, I'm sure.
hopefully. I'm in a patent farming group, um, but we come up with a bunch of ideas and we don't have the follow through a lot of the time because we just have fun during our we have too much fun during our meetings, and then we're like, oh no, we have to write something. Yeah, my group is really cool because we'll we'll get together and we'll be like, okay, what did we do this? Like, what did we do? Who had a pain point this week? And someone will be like, oh, well, I woke up and my back really hurt. Let's talk about that. And then we'll like talk about that. Someone will say an idea on how to fix it, and then we'll bounce off of each other's ideas. So like I'm not great at coming up with the base idea, but I'm good at building off of other people's and adding and like poking holes where I have to. So that's where my strength lies. So that's my contribution to the team.
That's great. I'm sure they appreciate having you there. So Tyler, is there anything else you want to say?
For some reason, magically, this summer, I was on a bunch of panels. I was on one for a conference called Inno, and I got paired with they were like, we don't do they were like, we don't do presentations. Like, we don't want people to just do a presentation. That's boring. And I was like, okay. So they paired me with a random person and we did a fireside chat.
Ooh.
And that was just like, they were just like, you're not giving a presentation, you're going to talk about innovation by. I was like, okay. So that was cool. And then yesterday I was on a women in tech panel for Share.
Oh,
um, and we talked about how you can leverage design thinking to improve your diversity and inclusion and empowerment initiatives, and then like fix your hiring pipe, or attempt to fix your hiring pipeline and change your practices in your own company.
yeah,
So
that sounds really valuable.
mhm.
Yeah, so we can point people there and they can check it out if they want to know more information. That's really cool. Really.
Yeah, check it out. Yeah, you can read my Medium articles, or you could follow me on Twitter at KingTyler13. I'm also on LinkedIn, and I'm sure Laura will post some links to some panels that I've been in over the summer.
You got it.
Hey,
We
this
look
is
forward to it.
fun. This is delightful.
Oh, yeah. Tyler, this has been so much fun for me today. You have no idea. I just wish you so much success in your adventures ahead. Can't wait to hear all the good news. Take care.